Hello, this is the 8th tutorial in the series, and today we're going to learn how to create a curtain for the entrance from the balcony. Alright, to do this we will start a new scene, reset max, and I will create a plane to be my curtain. So the plane's height needs to be almost till the ceiling, and our ceiling is 280 centimeters to an 2.8 meters, so I'm going to make the curtain 270 length, and the width I'm going to make it something like 100. Alright, maybe a little bit more, 120. That's fine. Now I'm going to increase the segments count to 100. I need many segments to create the creases inside the curtain. And the same with the height segments. I need the segments to be kind of square, so I'm going to increase, one second, increase the length segments. Go to the front viewport and try to make it as square as I can. That's fine. It doesn't need to be very square, just square enough. Like this is fine. Okay, so this is our curtain. Now I want this curtain to be closed, to shrink a little bit on the x-axis. What I need to do for this is create a box in the front viewport in the top of the curtain. I'm going to snap it here and snap it here. I'm going to give a 2 centimeter height to the box, and I'm going to take the box back a little bit to the center of the curtain, like this. Now I need to give segments to the box itself. Same amount as here, so 100. And I will need to make it a little bit square, like this. Everything is squared out. The reason I'm using so many segments is the cloth modifier uses the segments to create the creases and to create a more accurate simulation of cloth of the curtain. So I need many segments to do this. The more segments you have, the more accurate the simulation will be, but the more time it will take, and if you have a lower end PC, it may even crash if you have too many segments. So okay, let's continue. We have this. Now I would like the curtain to touch the floor, so it needs to be rectangular here at the bottom. It needs to touch the floor and bend inwards. So to create this bend in the lower end of the curtain, I'm going to create another plane, the top viewport, to act as ground. Again with the segments, a little less segments. This is fine. I'm going to take it down to about here. Now I need to make the animation of the helper object, of this object, and of the floor helper. The first animation I'm going to make is of this helper. What I need this to do is to shrink on the x-axis. So I'm going to make it animate. Auto key on, click, go to something like 40 frames, and I'm going to shrink it down, not too much, something like this is fine. Now if I play this animation, you can see it shrinks, but not too fast, because too fast can give inaccurate results in cloth modifier. So 40 frames is fine. After the curtain closes inwards, we need the floor to go up and catch the bottom part of our curtain. So in frame 60, I need to give a little bit of space for the curtain to finish its animation with shrinking. So I'm going to give it 20 frames, and then I'm going to auto key and click, animate the floor to go up to about here. And now the animations we see are these. Curtain shrinks and then floor goes up. Okay, next thing we do is apply a cloth modifier to our curtain. Let's give it names. Curtain helper 1, helper shrink, helper floor. And now I'm going to add a cloth modifier to the cloth. Going to go inside the object properties, choose the cloth and make it cloth. Next I'm going to add objects to our simulation, the helper shrink and the helper floor. Both of them need to be collision objects, the objects that the cloth will collide with. So we have helper floor, this didn't take, so I'm going to press again collision and again, and curtain is cloth. Now I'm going to see that it took, yes, collision object, again collision object and cloth. Going to press OK. Sometimes the program doesn't remember what I chose, so I'm going to go inside object properties and double check it is really on cloth, this is really on collision, and this is really on collision. So that's fine. Next thing I'm going to do is go to the front viewport and attach this cloth to this helper. How I do this is by once clicking on the cloth so it selects groups, and I'm going to select the segments that I want this helper to affect. I'm going to select 4 rows and then not select 5 rows, and then select 4 rows again, not select 5 rows. This is not mathematical, you can make a mistake here, it's not that critical. Try to make it 4 rows, 5 not selected, 4 yes selected, 5 not selected. And I'm going to select 4 at the end, although there are only 3 separating them. That's fine. Now I'm going to make it a group. Let's call this group bend group. And I'm going to click surface once the group is unselected and choose the surface, this one. What this does is this group of segments I selected is connected to this surface. So whatever this surface does, these segments do. If this bends, they bend. That's fine. Let's click on cloth again so it goes out of the group. And we're almost ready to simulate. The last thing I'm going to do is go down here in simulation properties and check the self collision so that the cloth will not collide with itself, which can make things like cloth going through itself and problems such as these. Okay, I'm going to choose one of the objects, it doesn't matter which one because all of them have cloth modifier applied to them by now. What I'm going to do is click on simulate, and this will simulate the cloth. Now, depending on the speed of your machine, it will take a lot of time or it will be fast. So don't worry if it takes a little bit more time than it does on my machine. Now you can see the curtain bends with the helper object, which creates these creases here. Exactly what we want. And we reached 40, so this helper object finished its simulation. Now, as you can see, the cloth itself is coming into place, and at frame 60 the floor will start to rise and catch the bottom end of this curtain. Here we go, the floor started to move. And it catches the curtain. Don't worry about this ripple effect, it will fade with time. Okay, the simulation is over. If we hide unselected and leave only the curtain, you can see we have a curtain here. I'll give it a little more frames so it will be less of in motion. So I'm going to increase the number of frames here to 120 and give it 20 more frames and click simulate. It will continue from frame 100 to whatever frames there are. So this gives the simulation a little more time to be still, to stop moving. Great. So this looks better. I'm going to hide the floor, hide this helper object, and don't worry about this part, we're going to delete it. So we have a great curtain here. I'm going to go to shaded viewport to see it better. Nice. Now, in order to delete this part, we're going to go to front, right click, convert to editable poly. We don't need the cloth anymore. Let's unhide the helper objects and delete them. And let's select these vertices here and delete them. Select this part here, loop, and that's fine. Alright, so now we have our curtain. Let's insert it to our scene and give it some materials. I'm going to save this, save as, desktop, curtain. Okay, after I save this, I'm going to go into my last scene of the room. I'm going to import and merge what I just saved, the curtain. Click on curtain and OK, and it imports the curtain itself into our scene. Let's put it in place like so, and take it up like so. So it needs to almost touch the floor. Alright, so we have a curtain here. Let's, one second, let's choose the curtain and go nearer to it. As you can see, we can apply a turbo smooth modifier to it in order for it to be smoother. So 1 iteration is fine, 2 is overkill, so I'm going to leave it on 1. And now the curtain is smoother than it was before. We're going to add a metal holder for this curtain up here, so don't worry about the end of the curtain up here. Alright, now let's give this curtain, let's make it thinner a little bit because it's too fat for my taste. So let's give it a FFD 3-on-3, go to the front viewport, click on FFD and take these lines here and maybe these down here a little bit like this, and close this up. What this does is bends the curtain as I want without ruining its form. So this is fine. Let's go to the front viewport and shift drag to create another one this side of the window and give it a modifier named mirror in order to mirror itself to the other side. Now they look too similar, so let's play with the FFD modifier a little bit. Take this a little bit here. This one let's bend like this, and maybe make it a little bit smaller here. So I made little variation to the curtain itself, and now they don't look exactly like one another. Let's see if they're close to the wall. That's fine. Viewport. Alright, now we'll give them materials. The material I'm going to use for these curtain, I'm going to create V-Ray material. And I'm going to give it a diffuse of a material called two-sided. V-Ray two-sided material. Let me just find it. Might be I made a mistake. Alright, it's in the materials, not in the textures. So when I choose to create a new material, like so, I choose not the V-Ray material, I choose the V-Ray two-sided material. Discard all material. What this does, there are no materials inside yet, but what this does is create materials for things that have almost no thickness, like tree leaves or curtains and things like that. So it's a perfect material for a curtain, maybe a lamp cover also. So let's give it a normal material, V-Ray material, as the front material. I'm going to give it a color of almost white because I want my curtain to be white, something like this. And back material, I don't need to put anything here because we don't see the back of the curtain, we see only the front. What's important is the translucency, how translucent this curtain will be, what can we see through it. So the translucency is in the center now. And this is fine for a test run, so let's try this material as we created it. And let's try rendering it out only the part where the curtains are. Okay, so this is a little bit too transparent in my taste, so I'm going to lower the transparency. Here, translucency. Black is no transparency at all, and white is fully transparent, so I need to make it a little less transparent like this. And let's try rendering again. Looks much better. You can see the light comes through the curtain, but the curtain is much less transparent than it was before. So let me check something first. Alright, so don't let the light source intersect with your curtain, because that can create unwanted results. Next thing I'm going to do is create a pole that will hold both curtains together. I'm going to create an editable poly and attach the other curtain to the first one. I'm going to do this because the top part of my curtain is not near the walls, and I want it to be near the walls so that the rod can catch them. I'm going to add a FFD modifier and shrink the upper part of the curtain down so it fits inside a metal rod, and shrink this down, take it to the wall a little bit, like so. Alright. As you can see, it's near the wall. Next thing I'm going to do is create a metal rod to hold the curtains together. This is going to be a rectangular rod. I'm going to make it higher so that both curtains fit inside of it. And I don't need segments because this is rectangular, so I'm going to make the segments as low as possible. Going to convert to editable poly and add segments to the rod. Connect, create two segments, and make the opening wider. Now I'm going to connect these segments and make the opening wider. And select this polygon here and extrude it inwards. Now we have our curtain holding rod. I'm going to give it a chrome material. Which we created already in previous tutorials. Check those out. And let's render our scene. See what we get.